Well, tell me, mama, what's going on? Tell me, darling, what's going on? I'm going back.
Welcome back, everybody. Bacon and Egg Show, episode 33, December 13th, 2020. I can't believe we've made it this far, but um,
Do you mean in 2020 or in general?
all of it
Yeah.
here on March 265th, 2020, or whatever day that, however long it's been.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, let's get right into it. Well, actually, first, I want to give credit. At the end of last week's show, we had the question of will Texas have a coaching change by next week? And me and you said yes. And I have to give credit to our Longhorn insider, Michael Holland, for saying no. He won the raffle.
Well, I
Or
mean,
lost, depending on how you look at whatever your perspective might be.
there you go.
So yeah, so we were wrong on that. I think not long after that, the news about the Urban Meyer not wanting to come back to coaching for health reasons or whatever kind of came out, and I think we even got a comment on it on the page about Urban said no. It's like, all right, well, we struck out on that one, but
Yeah, well, here's the deal on that, and I know we'll dive into this a little bit more, but just you want something to happen so badly, and sometimes at least for me, I was thinking, man, and we've had this conversation too about, is Texas really Texas, like the perception that Texas gives. And I heard a quote this week on the radio. It might have been Rod Babers, and it was like, we got to look at ourselves in the mirror and realize that maybe we ain't that pretty.
Yeah, that's yes, we will definitely get into more of this, because I think that's something we've kind of touched on here over the months about kind of all those program perception and all those kinds of things. So we will definitely get into that, but so let's kind of get caught up on the news bit a little bit here. So like after this last week, it kind of starts to come out that Urban Meyer, through whatever channels, whatever it's health reasons, whatever it might be, was not, basically the Texas job wasn't going to happen. Some people said, oh, that's just, he can't say anything. It's just posturing until Tom Herman's actually fired, which up until, what was it, Wednesday of this past week, it looked like there was going to be a game on Saturday, that Texas was going to travel to Lawrence and finish out the regular season. Well, whatever it was, Wednesday, Thursday, the news comes down that game's off. It's just a no contest. It's not going to be rescheduled. There's no game that's going to be played. So the regular season ended for Texas. And which then kind of puts Chris Del Conte on the clock, right? It goes, okay, well, the regular season's over. It's time to assess your coaching staff, and here it comes. Here comes the big coaching change, that's bound to happen. And at that point, the discussions were already revolving around not Urban Meyer anymore, because that kind of had come out, but alternative candidates, the plan Bs, the plan Cs, and some of those are more palatable than others, some names that were being tossed around. But anyway, we get to yesterday, we get to Saturday, and around midday or early afternoon yesterday, the university and Chris Del Conte release a statement saying Tom Herman is the head football coach. And in classic Belmont, Texas athletic department fashion, the statement was so bad that Chris Del Conte had to field calls from news outlets to clarify what was in the statement. And essentially, and I know people are still like parsing the words. Well, he didn't say this, he didn't say that, so maybe there's a chance that, Herman's fired. No, the statement says, we're disappointed in the season. He's our coach going forward. And he clarified with the news outlets that Tom Herman will be coaching the Texas football team in 2021. End of. what do you make of all this, Jay? I know there's a lot to unpack here, but let's just start tearing right into it. I mean, where are you at on this? I think I know where we both stand on Herman returning as coach. But that statement, what did this do for you?
Well, it didn't do much, I tell you that. It was sort of one of those things where when you get to the point where you're sort of tired of being a laughing stock, because that's what the University of Texas football program and athletic department are at this time. It's how can you fumble something so badly in so many ways, on so many levels, and then all of a sudden we're supposed to sit here and be all right with the fact that Tom Herman is coming back next season like nothing ever happened. Like, it's almost like, and we said before the season started, we wouldn't really see a reason. It would be really hard to get fired during this pandemic season. And then we get to this point and we were already on, we were the guys that were flying the plane around DKR during the game saying, flush the John and dump DeLoss and all that, that we would have been those guys for Herman at the end of the season. And here we are with knowing that he'll be back as the head coach in 2021, because like you said, when he had to field those phone calls, he specifically said, Tom Herman will be the football coach in 2021. That's a quote. So he's in like that. I don't see them going back on this at this point. So for all of us that would want to hold out a little bit of hope, Tom Herman's coming back, and we need to accept that. And to me, the problem with us needing to accept that is Tom Herman coming back is actually, in my mind, unacceptable.
Yeah, it's I just think back to something that we've discussed on here over the last, it's more here recently as the kind of Urban Meyer stuff, the rumors really kind of like started to pick up steam, was if this was an option to bring back Tom Herman for 2021, if this was an option that was legitimately on Chris Del Conte's table throughout this entire process, where was at least the public posturing of supporting the current football coach? Because after the Oklahoma game, the silence from Chris Del Conte about this football program, not congratulating, no one's, petty kind of bullshit, but like not congratulating him on social media after a win, just total silence from the athletic department, letting those rumors of Urban Meyer just swirl and really take over. Where was even if it's just like a public saving face, express some confidence in the current head coach of the football program? Because what's happened is the recruiting's cratered. All confidence from fans and recruits about the Herman regime is gone. And that's where, like, if they went after Urban Meyer, surely they did, and he said no, there's no shame in that. Like, they went after him. And if he turned down Texas, he turned down Texas. There's, what can you do? I have a problem with the backup plans and how it's been managed since that. Like, did they really not think that, like, I know it was like Urban Meyer or bust, but did they not have a guy that gets paid as much money as Chris Del Conte does not have, like, oh, well, now what? Now what do we do? And I mean, was it a case of the donors that were going to buy out Tom Herman for Urban Meyer saying, well, now I'm not going to send that check because you didn't, it's not for Urban Meyer. Like, there's just, this whole thing's been botched so badly. And so, like, how could, there was no plan B.
The plan truly was Urban Meyer or bust. I mean, and we said that on this show. We knew, like, in our minds, it was Urban Meyer or bust. And it turns out that was legitimately the plan. There is no plan B. And even if there was, you're already getting, you know, somebody that I have raved about on this show and will continue to, Matt Campbell, had to say that he wasn't, like, it got out or whatever, that he didn't say it, but it got out or whatever, that he wasn't interested in the Texas job. Are you kidding me? Like, that's the point we're at now, where a coach, a young promising coach that there's rumors about him possibly moving to the Texas job from an Iowa State program, which they're a top 10 team right now, aren't they?
Number 7 in the latest poll.
And he doesn't even use it as a bargaining chip. He just comes out and to get an extension or whatever. He comes out or a raise. He comes out and just flat says, no, we're going to let them know that I'm not interested in that. And I don't even, like, there was no plan B. There just wasn't.
No, and that's what surprises me so much about, like, if there is no plan B and you're going all in on this, do you not have anything to kind of hedge, to kind of cover your ass if it doesn't work out? Like, athletic directors and stuff come out all the time and express a vote of confidence. In, like, even if it's just for a public show. Like, and they couldn't even do that. And that's where, like, it's just to come back and just be like, yeah, he's our coach. And it's like, like, the recruiting is what it is. And it's going to, like, this thing is, I mean, who's signing up for this? Besides, like, a 3-star recruit that always wanted to go to Texas, like, oh, great, well, now I can go. But we've already seen this coaching staff doesn't really develop talent all that well. So, like,
it just seems to be those outliers. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just, we can kind of see where this is heading. And it's it's not good. Pretty. No. And yeah, I just, everybody, Chris Del Conte, Texas will actually have a real athletic director now, after Mike Perrin and Steve Patterson, just, all this total mess. What is it about working over at Belmont that turns, Chris Del Conte, he gets paid a lot for what he's done in his career. Like, it's, what the hell's gone wrong? What is going on?
I think it's going back to something I said in the open of the show is, I think there's this perception that we talk about Tom Herman and lipstick on a pig. And it's like this athletic department does things every so often that also have that same appearance, where you put a little shine on it. But when you take the 35,000 foot view of the athletic department at Texas, it's not that pretty. Austin is a great place to live. You won't have any finer facilities basically across the board for any sport as a coach.
I might disagree with you a little bit there.
Well, there's upgrades that have been made recently,
yeah.
I should say, to try to stem some of that. You're right. They're not the best facilities, but there have been a lot of upgrades, and we got a new gym, a new basketball arena being built. Like, this is all coming. This stuff is coming. It's not the best facilities, but you're right. But the point is there are a lot of positives to come into Austin. And when you watch it decade after decade of an athletic department that seems to fumble every big decision at every corner, from a coach perspective, why would you want to be involved in that? And from a recruit perspective, when you look at that, it's basically the guys that, and now when you're even losing the guys that were like the lifetime Longhorn, always wanted to go to Texas, and then you're losing them to Ohio State. That's a problem, man. Like, that is a huge, huge problem when you're even losing those recruits that think of Texas as this all, of Texas, we're Texas, and it's becoming more of a reality that, at least from the football perspective, which you've referenced it as the front porch to the rest of the athletic department. When you see how mismanaged it is, these kids are thinking about their professional future earlier and earlier now, and those sort of things just matter. And if you don't see people, and now there's going to be some people drafted this time around, but it's just, it doesn't check any boxes if you're a recruit, other than it's like you're going to Austin, man. Like that's it.
Yeah, it's we're getting to the point now here where we're about to be in 2021, and we're looking at where these recruits, they're at the age where nobody would. It's going to be here soon where these recruits weren't alive when Vince Young beat USC in the Rose Bowl. Like this whole kind of like their entire, their 15, 16 years, Texas has been mediocre. It's been, a punchline. And that's where I agree with you on like the perception thing. Like I think Texas is a lot closer in reality when you actually kind of look at where this program has been, a lot closer to like Tennessee and Michigan over the last, however many decades. They're closer to those programs than it is Ohio State and Alabama. Easy.
Yeah.
And, we could go through these numbers all day, but like, only 8 conference championships in the last 43 years. How many has Oklahoma won since 2000? It's
Bob Stoops' office is full of Big 12 championship trophies.
Full. Lincoln Riley's won what, 5 straight? 5 straight or whatever it is, and could, depending on what happens against Iowa State, could get another one.
But that's when Stoops can legitimately come out and use and say that in the press, like, look, my office is full of Big 12 championship trophies. And as a Texas fan, what are you going to say?
There's nothing you can say.
Because he's right.
Yeah, there's nothing you can say.
It's just like you rumble under your breath about it, but he's right. And Texas is not even close to that. And that's why Vince Young, to me, is the greatest football player in the history of the program. Vince Young is the reason that there is a national championship in the midst of all of this other garbage.
1 in 50 years. One.
It's Vince. It's Vince, man.
In the most talent-rich area of the country, this program has 1 national title in 50 years. And it's Vince.
So, I mean, unless you're the next Vince Young. Oh, wait. They had the next Vince Young according to Rivals rankings. At least it was the highest guy that Rivals has rated. He's the only guy that's been as high as Vince Young in Ewers, and they lost him. They lost the guy.
Going to Ohio State, yeah.
Going to Ohio State. So it's just, it's hard to stomach that. But we're very realistic. We've had those discussions before, but we understand where this program is, and maybe, I know I was really all in and bought in on the fact that Texas could have gotten Urban Meyer, and I don't know, maybe why was I so bought in? I don't know. Like what about this is, just because he said one time that Texas would be a dream job, one of the 3 schools he would come back for and all that stuff. But it's like, when you think about it, what would Urban Meyer want to, why is it attractive? It's a dumpster fire, man.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. I think to answer your question about like why are, the idea of it, why are we so bought in on that? I think because it was the idea of like basically having a quick fix, you basically bringing in a mercenary to fix it quickly and get things back on track where they're supposed to be. But I think the counter argument to that is what we've been seeing from Tom Herman is probably where Texas is supposed to be. Historically, these last 50 years, minus a few seasons here and there where they've, one season where they won a national championship or maybe had a one-loss season. But I mean, we talked about John Makovic. Like he was Texas for 6 seasons. He won the 3 Big 12 championships. He got fired. And his team, those weren't great teams, but that's kind of where this program's level is, right? Outside of the Mac Brown years. Well, the first 3 quarters of Mac Brown's tenure.
Well, yeah,
but that's kind of it. That's what Texas is.
Yeah, and that's that stretch where it's like Mac spoiled us, to get those 10 when Texas fans used to grumble, about, oh yeah, well, we know he's going to get to 10 wins, but what's he going to do other than that? Is he going to win the big one ever? Which that was Mac's knock. He didn't win a lot of the conference championships. He obviously did get the one national championship, but it's like he spoiled us. Mac spoiled us. That was like Mac Brown was like the peak of coaching in a decade that didn't start with the 7 or, didn't start with a 6. Anything after that is basically like, oh, that's another flash in the pan that all of us, Texas was relevant again for this short amount of time. And it was a great run that Mac had. And then it was really the exclamation point was with Vince. And then a little bit later, you have that another rise again, and just didn't work out with the Colt McCoy injury and all that stuff. But the point is like you get lucky on a hire, right? You happen to, and what was the original? Who did they wanted to hire originally instead of Mac?
Oh, Gary Barnett.
Barnett, right? They almost talked themselves into Gary Barnett over the guy that won the one national title for them in 50 years. This is just what Texas is now. And while Texas does make all the money, it's like, that's like when we talk about Arsenal's trophy being 4th place and going into the Champions League, it's like Texas's trophy every year is the financial one.
It's revenue, man.
Hey, win the revenue trophy every year. That's great. But how you don't translate that into anything other than a dumpster fire of an athletic department is really it's a disservice, to be honest. Like the amount of revenue that comes into this department in relation to the lack of winning that takes place on a national level it's kind of, I don't know, man. It's not good.
No, I know national, the first national signing day is coming up this week, and great. It's hard to get even the slightest bit excited about, and it's credit to the players that are coming and all that stuff, and but had another decommitment this week, had another commit in the class get arrested for carjacking. And he might, so things are going well on the recruiting trail. And, I can't wait. I can't wait for Tom Herman to go out on the recruiting trail and sit in the living room with a family before the February signing day and have, how often do you think he's going to get asked? So are you going to coach? Are you going to be at Texas after 2021? And how do you answer that?
I would guess every time he walks into a house, he will be. And I don't know how you answer it, because he's in an unwinnable situation. He's not the coach that needs to be at Texas, but now he has to be for next year. And he's in over his head. And he's dead man walking. He knows he basically the first loss he takes next year, there it comes. It's going to be, well, this guy's gone, right? And that's the talk for the whole year. So basically, it's to have to be perfect like that, and I don't know, man. He definitely, I feel like this is he's going to have to change his approach, because he's not the most humble of guys,
No.
So to walk into a living room can you still walk into a living room with that bravado, with that same, almost
Yeah.
brazenness? Can you still do that if you're Tom Herman? Like, do you have to be, that same cat that you put on to be, or whatever, like, because that's who you are. And
Yeah. I think
it,
he's
it,
going to be who he is. But honestly, I can't put too much blame on him with this. Like, again, this comes back to like Chris Del Conte for me. Tom Herman, since the Oklahoma game, has basically every week been coaching to like, is this the week where I lose and lose my job? Is this the week where I win and I'm here another week? Tom Herman's been left hung out to dry basically since the OU game, thinking that like, well, even if I, even if I win this game at the end of the season, I'm probably still getting fired. I honestly believe he's probably gone through these last few months and these last few weeks fully prepared and fully ready to get fired. And when you're in that mindset, I'm sure he's done a lot of like looking back at what's gone wrong, all those kinds of things. You don't want to get fired from a job like Texas, but like then all of a sudden be like, oh, well, I guess we're going to be back next season. Like, and that's where I just don't understand how Chris Del Conte let this thing play out the way that it has. It's confusing to me.
Yeah, confusing is a good way to put it, man. Yeah, it was handled about as poorly as it could be handled this year, and it's a shame because we were excited for this program at the start of the season. We thought there were big things on the horizon for this program at the start of the season, and it wasn't necessarily because we believed that Tom Herman was going to coach this team to a national championship. It was because we thought these players were talented enough and would be able to be put into enough positions to be successful to make a run at things. And then we see the constant skill position rotations. It's just a carousel. And we see Sam. I still believe Sam was playing through some stuff this season. I don't think Sam Ehlinger was 100% all year. I can't buy that somebody that looked the part and developed the way that he did through his junior season regressed as much as he did his senior year in terms of, because there were a couple of throws that he was making in the last game or two where I was like, that is the NFL 15-yard hard out to the sideline, opposite hash on a bullet. That's the throws that I know he can make. But we didn't see them as often this year as we had in years past. And Sam had some inconsistent games this season in terms of completion percentage. But I feel like a part of that is because he wasn't being put in those same positions to be successful. He wasn't able to establish a rhythm with the same receivers on the field at any given time because there was this constant rotation, and you have to thinking, okay, this guy comes out of this cut this way and I have to put the ball on him. And then this guy cuts out of that same concept a different way. And he usually likes to cut inside on the option routes and not outside. And instead of being able to zone in on 3 or 4 or 5 max guys at any time and be able to just and just pick where you want to go because you're in that much of a rhythm and you're so comfortable with it. I think that attributes to Sam's lack of success this year. And when you look at his stat line, he still had a good year. But the eye test wasn't there at times. He just didn't look like the same quarterback to me. So, Kerry, what's going to happen next year when the starting quarterback has never started a game before? What kind of ride is this going to be? You couldn't get it done with a quarterback that had developed the way that Sam Ehlinger did. You weren't putting him into a position to be successful. How are you going to do that for a true sophomore quarterback that has never started or played any meaningful minutes?
Got to lean on those running backs. That's what it has to be. It's got to be Bijan Robinson and Roshan next season. Heavy doses of it. It has to be. And it kind of goes to your question about like, well, if Sam was banged up, why didn't we see more of that? Why didn't the offense lean more on these running backs until the K-State game where they went off?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's hard to get enthusiastic about next season. It is. Because we kind of now it's like we kind of know what's coming. Like breaking in a new quarterback. It's not a super easy schedule next year either. Like the first two non-conference games aren't like those are going to be difficult. With Louisiana coming to town, and it's not LSU, it's the other Louisiana, but Napier's done a great job coaching that program. They were in the top 20. And they get to come to Austin to get a statement kind of win against a program that's in shambles. The fan enthusiasm's not going to be there. The first thing that goes wrong in that stadium, you can already hear it.
Man, that could be bad. That's just like I mean, I know that's worst case scenario, but couldn't you see it happening? Like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's not like it's far fetched or anything like that. Like to me, I'm almost leaning towards that being the likeliest of scenarios at this point. With that, go ahead.
Oh well, let me see. They just, what was it? They beat Iowa State by 17 points in Ames.
Yeah.
Man,
it's going to be from jump. You don't even get in Eastern Dakota State Polytech to start the season. That's your first game.
I'm telling you, people thought losing to Maryland was bad. If the Raging Cajuns come into Austin and get a win, and then they get to go to Arkansas the following week. That's what I'm saying. Like it's
fun
just
times, man.
If you had all the momentum in the world and kind of felt like, whether it was Urban Meyer or whatever, Matt Campbell, whatever kind of, whoever a replacement for Tom Herman could have been, you could at least sell the, like, if not a full on rebuild, but a transition. What was it? Nick Saban, I think, was his first season in Alabama. They lost to Louisiana Monroe, non-conference. Like he had just like this terrible loss early on at Bama. But it's like, oh, well, maybe this is going to work out. But you could at least sell the like, well, there's a program change. There's, the transition's happening.
Right.
Now with, you talk about a hot seat. You lose, lose either of those games. God forbid both. You're talking about just pouring gasoline on, because then what?
See, this is
why you fire him after 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think you could. This is why. Why not? This is why that this is going to be so fun to watch next season, Kerry, is because I'm telling you, man, like that's a reason to be excited about this next year, is because it's like every bit of it is just going to be, and then you're going to watch the first dousing of gasoline, and then the next one, and then it's just going to fully engulf the whole program by the end of it, dude. That's must-see TV to me. That's, it's...
Yeah, it actually is going to be
anarchy,
really entertaining. I think Rice is the third game, so like John Malkovich said, you can't beat Rice every year.
You can't expect to beat Rice every year, Kerry. Come on.
Oh, man, it's going to be great. Fans are going to be back in the stadium, too, I think. It's going to be...
Oh, yes.
Here come those Raging Cajuns. Oh, man. That's a good note to leave that program there. Let's talk about for a positive sports experience, let's talk about the basketball team for a few. We were supposed to have a big game today. Texas was supposed to be going to Waco to play as of now, right? The number two team in the country, Baylor.
Yes.
It was going to be a huge matchup, but due to COVID, the game's been postponed. So no, it hasn't been rescheduled yet. The last that I've seen, but they're going to get that back on. But yeah, no basketball today. Texas had, I would say, a big win, but kind of a statement win against Texas State midweek. They did what they had to do. It was professional. They went out and took care of business, covered the spread, and
yeah.
Greg Brown looked every bit of what we anticipated him to look. So any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on the Runnin Horns and what they did this week?
The Big 12 has an empty week at the end of the schedule to reschedule these types of games. So hopefully they'll be able to squeeze this in, because these will, if the season goes how I feel it's going to go, these are going to be two highly ranked teams. This might be a top 10 matchup that we'll get to end the regular season, to end the conference schedule, heading into the Big 12 conference tournament. So I hope they can figure that out. But in terms of the Texas State matchup, that was one to me where it just looked like a lot of guys just trying to get their shot off. I felt like there wasn't a lot of rhythm to anything, and really, you saw these these stretches where they would go down into the post and they would just pass out and get a jump shot, or just exert their dominance in the paint. Couple of good dribble drives to the basket. You can see the athleticism on this team, but not a ton of rhythm. They just out talented Texas State this week. But the fun thing about it is, the exciting thing about it is, the athleticism continues to fly off the page with this team. Greg Brown is the period on that exclamation point of athleticism. But you see these guys flying around. They rebound well for the most part. Even their mistakes feel like they're done. To me, it's like when I watch somebody make a mistake, if they look clumsy making a mistake, okay. But if you look athletic making a mistake, it's still like, all right, I see where they were going, and that maybe their brain was ahead of where everything else was, but they still looked good doing it. They're not. I don't see a lot of those clumsy. Like there was some bad basketball played where there was some turnovers, but for the most part, I feel like they're just so athletic. They're so you hear like the fast twitch muscle sort of references when you see guys that can just jerk the quick jerk muscles, I guess, if you will. And it's this team is full of them, and they come off the bench too. They're not just in the starting lineup. These guys coming off the bench that are really good players and just slide right in and know what their role is. So it's very exciting, even in a game where I thought they just kind of out-athleted, if you will, Texas State. They still looked very, very impressive doing it.
Yeah, and I was just checking the schedule now that the Baylor game was moved around, just what's going to be next. It's going to be Sam Houston coming to Austin on Wednesday, not actual Sam himself.
Sam?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which, right. I mean, it's 2020. It's December 2020. We're not at the end of the year yet. Maybe Sam Houston does revive and comes and scores 30 at the Irwin Center. Just
that would be Texas's luck. I mean, at this point, it would happen.
And then it gets into Big 12 play next Sunday against Oklahoma State coming to Austin. So as of now, Oklahoma State, is not ranked or anything like that. It's not the vintage Oklahoma State we might know, but still going to be. I mean, the Big 12 is just stacked. Every matchup in this league is going to be, I don't want to say tricky, but it's going to be a tough matchup every week, just in terms of you wouldn't be surprised if you lost to really any team in maybe not Kansas State, but good conference. But let's see what else we got going on. Oh,
I'm really excited. Real quick, Brock Cunningham is a guy for me that comes off the bench and fills that role, that sort of Energizer Bunny role. And he's really somebody that stood out to me. When we talk about, Courtney Ramey is a really good player, like a really, really good player. Matt Coleman, super good player. It's just like when you look at guys that at this point, for what their role is on the team, they're not going to be the guy that's going to fill it up every night, but they just, if they play well, the team is going to play well, sort of a deal. And I think Brock Cunningham is one of those cats that we're going to see throughout the season in big spots really step up and play key roles there. It's just, it seems to me like they're going to find different ways to beat teams.
Yeah.
Whether it's out athleting them, whether it's turning the ball, forcing 20 turnovers in one game, whether it's, they're going to have games where they're going to make 12, 14 3-pointers, where they just go on a hot streak and actually hit a bunch of those threes that they're taking and win that way. That's the most exciting thing, I think, aside from the athleticism, is just that this team can find different ways to win basketball games. And they're going to have to, because like you mentioned, Kerry, the Big 12 schedule, there's not a lot of breaks.
No,
there are not. And you're playing quality teams week in and week out on that schedule, and it's going to beat you up. And you're going to lose some conference games. It's going to happen. Like, we're going to be talking about some losses this season. And we're like, yeah, let's just, you go into a certain place and you get beat. And well, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, man, there's a lot to be excited about with this basketball team. And if we can just see maybe a few plays, Shaka, out of a timeout, can you draw something up maybe here and there?
Well, that's what's going to be interesting is the, we've talked about kind of Shaka's coaching over his tenure at Texas, and this team can, to your point, can win so many different ways. If something's not working one night, they can rely on something else and be good enough to get a win. Is Shaka going to be the coach that doesn't try to mess that up? Because I think there were times, the last few seasons where he kept trying to get them to do things in games that weren't working. It's like for a night the threes aren't falling. Well, quit drawing up, quit running these plays to rely on that. Oh, you're rebounding, well, drive it in. And it's kind of like, is Shaka going to, I don't want to say necessarily stay out of the way, but kind of, if something's not working, don't try to force it.
Yeah.
Let these guys play. There's enough depth, there's enough talent there to just kind of stick with what's working for that night until it's not working anymore. And I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see just how much he kind of, with this group, how much, week to week we're going, well, we don't really like what Shaka drew up there. That was kind of against the flow of the game, or kind of seeing what he brings.
Yeah. And we're not even Jace Febris. I mean, when Jace Febris gets on the floor and gets rolling, it's going to raise this team up another level.
Yep.
And there's no doubt about that. There's some exciting stuff to come, and there's a reason that aside from the official hype train conductor Mike Holland getting us on board, there's a lot of other reasons to be excited about this team too, and it's going to be fun to watch. I hope this stays fun. I hope this continues to be a positive sports experience, because that's what I'm looking for these days, man. Need some PSEs.
Why waste your time with anything else? It should be a positive sports experience.
Yes.
For example, today, it's a Sunday. My positive sports experience will not be putting on the Cowboys or Texans games to I'm going to remain my positive sports experience. Actually, this is a good segue right here. This is a big day for Austin FC. That's going to be a positive sports experience. Today is the trade windows opened up. They can now start making trades and start dealing out, building this roster. It's actually going to be a really exciting week for Austin FC. So
when there's already been some talk, or I remember seeing it the other day, and I forget. Now I gotta find it out. But they agreed to buy someone that basically is like a sort of a Swiss Army knife, played a ton of different roles, and is just going to slide into wherever they need him to slide into on this team. It just feels like in the few moves that we have heard this team make, it just feels like everything it makes sense. Like, you're not like, well, we're bringing somebody in that's going to do what. It just feels like this Kerry, that this franchise is already so well run.
Yeah, and there's been a few quotes from Claudio Reyna that's kind of been like how he wants to build this squad, and it's been, he's looking for guys that have a lot of experience in the league and can navigate, what's going to be an interesting season with an expansion team and these kinds of things, and that this team, I mean, they're going to have some really good players that they're going to pluck away from other squads in MLS. Like, we haven't even gotten to talking about like the designated players and kind of the big money signings, which are going to come. But like today, the trade window opens up. They can start making, some cash deals and stuff with players from other clubs. Tuesday's the expansion draft. And so they can draft 5 players from, unprotected players from a group of teams that weren't involved in last season's expansion draft. So they're going to get some quality there. Free agency opens up Wednesday, and there's already a ton of names being mentioned that other clubs, like that have opted to go into free agency. And then Thursday is the re-entry draft, where players that haven't signed a free agent deal that aren't attached to a club can basically get scooped up in a re-entry process. So we're going to go from like, they've had the 2 Paraguayan players on the books here for the last few months, but here in this week, they're going to essentially have close to a full squad. We're going to kind of really know what this team's going to look like. Then the fun part comes where they can start signing some of these big names from around the world that, could be interested in coming to Austin. So it's a fun time. It's fun to watch this thing get built from the ground up, and it's a positive sports experience. So,
well, and that's one of the other guys that I was thinking about just now, but couldn't come up with the name. Paul Aguilar from Club America. His contract's coming up, and he's somebody that's been linked. He's a legend there, and he's somebody that's been sort of linked to Austin FC. And it's like, when you're bringing in those big names that have played in big matches on a big stage, you're sort of establishing that groundwork for what's to come.
yep.
And I love hearing where they are in terms, like what their vision is, what sort of the direction they're going, like you were saying, in terms of bringing in some established guys, getting some talent. I'm excited to see the people that they get in this expansion draft, just to sort of, like you said, there's going to be some talent that gets pulled from some of these rosters. And it's almost like, what can they be like what the Carolina Panthers were and the Jacksonville Jaguars were when they first came in and had some early success, because they were able to not only build through the expansion draft, but also make the right signings and really manage a roster well, which is, as an expansion team, you sort to have a blank slate to play with. I don't know. It's just got to feel so cool to be able to mold it as an executive from the very beginning, and what your vision is for the program. So it's going to be exciting to see the way that this club shapes up, and we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna know pretty quick here.
Yeah,
some of these players that are going to be on this club.
Yeah, and some, we'll see. There should be some players. I've seen a few names that are interested in signing as free agents and stuff like that are, players that have U.S. national team experience, and there's going to be some familiar names. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Be keeping an eye on it, see what kind of moves happen over the next couple of days. But yeah, it's going to be a fun week for watching this team get built out. So
yeah, and we'll have some regular Austin FC talk here on the show for sure. It's kind of hard to, without knowing who's all coming in and everything like that, it's sort of hard to discuss a lot of where this club is, but it'll be great to be able to have a vision of that and have something more to talk about other than how close the bleachers are to the end of the pitch. Dude, that's going to be loud. That's going to be a loud place. It's going to be rowdy. It's going to be hard to play there for
Yeah.
opposing teams. And I don't know, man. It's just feels like it's going to be one of the better environments in the league already, just from day one. So hopefully we can get this. Obviously, now with the great news that the vaccine for COVID-19 has been approved and is ready to be distributed. As that all starts and as we start to get that out into the population, hopefully we can feel more comfortable going to sporting events.
Yeah.
Because at this point, it's just like I get the spacing and I get I'm not as comfortable. Mike goes to games and he feels totally cool with it. And I get it. You're spaced out there. You're
Take your
outside.
precautions and
You're outside,
yeah.
you're taking precautions. They take all the right precautions and all that stuff. And so I get that. But to make the Austin FC experience, like to make that stadium what as a fan you would want it to be, like you want it packed to the gills, and hopefully people will continue to be responsible and follow those precautions. So we can get to that point next year where hopefully we can talk about that. But that's a long way ahead. But because I mean I've thought about it, man. I've thought about going to a Texas State game down here in San Marcos before their season ended, because it was like, man, it's like there's not going to be, and it's going to be all spaced out and people will be wearing their masks. And I've definitely considered it. I just hadn't made that jump yet, and I think the longer we're in this, the more likely people are to take those steps, and to knowing that that hopefully everybody else is taking the proper precautions necessary, and you're doing your part too. So I totally understand being comfortable with doing those things. I just hope that we can get to a point very soon where we're all comfortable, to the point where where we can be there and enjoy a sports experience, a positive sports experience.
Exactly.
And hopefully we can all get there and really just really I don't know, man. I've been thinking a lot about, because I was going to make the joke earlier that we should have brought back the Pandemic Weekly segment. This show. And I don't know. I've just been thinking a lot about it lately, man. And I just hope that we can get there soon to where we can be comfortable doing that stuff again, because it's something that I really miss, going to a ball game and a concert, and those are really the things that I get some of the most joy in. So hopefully we can get there soon, man.
Yeah, I mean, it does start to seem like there might be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, but then you see the figures and see the cases and death counts every day and the hospital numbers here during this winter, and you kind of go, oh boy, like this is going to get pretty ugly before it starts getting better. But like the vaccine news is great, and hopefully, I mean, and that's where, like we talked about with the Austin FC thing, I mean, I think they're still on pace to have the season starting in March. And you kind of go, it's only 3 months away.
Yeah.
Like, we're not far from that at all. But in a way, it, when you consider the vaccine and you start getting into the spring and stuff like that, you go, where are we going to be in March? Like, maybe we can have a decent number of people in that building on opening day. And I don't know, it's, I try to remain optimistic about it, but it's you go throughout this pandemic, it's kind of, there's been ups and downs, and it's a roller coaster. But
yeah, and the fans that they do allow in there in March, they'll take all the proper precautions.
Oh yeah,
they'll do everything necessary to ensure that it's a safe environment. And I hope, because we watch college football games and we see college students all down by the field in the huddle, and they've broken crowds up before, and things like that. And I feel like at a professional sports game, we haven't seen those experiences. Like we've seen fans in the stands, and and we see them in their pods that they call it, right? Everybody's in their pods, and that's sort of what they did at the Longhorn game. I didn't hear anything at Texas games about fans being not following protocols and things like that. Like there are responsible fans out there that can go to a game and do things the right way. Like that's great. And it is possible, you know?
Right.
So hopefully they allow some fans into those MLS games for this coming season, and they can find a way to do it responsibly and still give that experience. Cause I still think even if they're at, because what does that stadium hold? 21,000?
Yeah, about 21, 22. Yeah.
So I feel like even if it is at 25% or 50% or whatever it is, 25% would be what I would hope for, so they could space people out. But you know, like for me, you could still get a pretty raucous crowd there out of that many soccer fans that are that excited about being there. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully you know, as these signings start to come in and we get a picture of what this club's going to be, we'll have a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, it's going to start looking more real and real as this, you know, as the team starts to get built out. You know, I know should be soon getting an announcement on like a TV and radio affiliate, all those things to where, you know, for local broadcasts, and starts becoming a real thing. Stadium's nearly complete.
A real live professional team in Austin.
Yep. For a positive sports experience. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Let's speaking of positive sports experience, Arsenal versus Burnley today at 1:15. The positive part about it is that it's not on Peacock, so should be able to catch that on NBC Sports Network.
Hey, we get a game. They gave us one that we don't have to go behind another paywall for. How many different services do I have to subscribe to watch a freaking Arsenal match?
It's a joke. It's a real joke. That's where, but so that's the positive side of it. The not positive side is that it's essentially a relegation battle with Arsenal sitting in 15th, and I think Burnley's 17th or 18th, something down there in the drop zone. So yeah, it's going to be a real screamer today on NBCSN.
What happened, man? Like, we were, you know, Arteta, we thought Arteta could be the guy. Maybe he still can be, but it's like, it's some of these signings that were made recently they haven't really panned out.
No, I think we talked about on opening day how great Willian looked. I think he had 2 assists, whatever. It just looked like, yeah, this is kind of what the team needed. And he's just been absolutely miserable since, like just coasting along. Like, and then you see that and you kind of go like, well, why can't, like, in Ozil can't get in the team? Like, if you're going to allow players to just like coast along on a paycheck, at least put a creative player out there. But it's frustrating. It's you know, they need to God, it's really hard to say, because you can almost apply this to Unai Emery too and his tenure. You go, well, is it the manager or is it the players? And is Arteta trying to force this group to play a way that they're just not suited to? Or is it his system? There's so many questions to it, because it's like this team, they got on such a good run towards the end of last season. Mm-hmm. It's like when the COVID break opened back up and they restarted play again. I mean, talk about some huge wins. I mean, winning the cup, everything. Like, this looked, you know, the Aubameyang signing, like the contract signing, like looked like there was plenty of momentum. And the players, they can't score an outfield, like an during play goal to save their lives. Something's not clicking. It's not working.
Broken. Just looks broken. Yeah, just it's whatever it is, it's broken right now. So you gotta hope for some sort of effort against Burnley, because if you don't, this is starting to look like a team that the spiral could be it could really pick up some speed here. So
well, and it's going to be a crucial January when the transfer window opens back up, and I think that Arteta needs to, and the club in general need to make a big signing or two. And when I say big, maybe just something in terms of creativity to score some goals, because that's what's absolutely missing right now. And it's they have to do something. They have to address this somehow, because the players that are out there right now just aren't getting it done.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, with that positive sports experience at 1:15 Central today. So overlapping with the Texans and Cowboy games, if anybody wants to. God, just stacking misery.
Yeah, triple screen of misery.
Ugh. 3 portals of hell open on your monitors.
That's one where if you do that and some demon like crawls out of your television screen, that's on you for putting those 3 games on at once.
Exactly.
That's your deal, man.
Yep. Don't blame us.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you could blame us, but we wouldn't care. It'd be all right, whatever.
Yeah, that's fine. Tell us in the comments.
Yeah. Let us know. Drop us a line.
Yeah, we'll read it on the show, or not. But well, Jay, you got anything else? I think that's about it for this week.
Just sort of hope for a little bit of momentum, maybe one recruit in Texas football that we're not thinking is going to be there, but can sort of make us feel a little bit better after this first signing period. And I don't know that that's going to happen, but you hope for something like that to at least have a little bit of positive momentum, even though Tom Herman will tell you momentum's an illusion.
It is.
You want to see something like that to feel good. It's just they're trying to hold on to whatever's left of this recruiting class right now by saying Herman is the coach in 2021, and we'll see what they can pull out. If there are any more decommits coming up to this signing day, I mean, it seems like most of these guys are locked in, but it could be, who knows at this point. I wouldn't count anything out. So let's get some positive momentum there and heading that direction towards the first signing day. And, hopefully we can see some more Texas basketball.
Yeah.
No running any more COVID issues, and watch this athletic team develop a little bit, man. So, but yeah, no, let's have a good week out there, guys. And what do we got? How many more? What's today? The 12th? What?
13th.
12 days till Christmas, guys. Sing your song. Sing the 12 days of Christmas coming up here.
That's right. Get your shopping done.
Yeah.
Get your shopping done.
If you haven't bought your favorite locally sourced YouTube show host a Christmas present yet, you're getting kind of close to the end of the deal. So
that's right. Promo code bacon and eggs. Use your coupon code to get 0% off at your favorite store.
Buy one, get none free.
That's it. Buy one, get one.
You get the one that you bought.
Yeah. Buy one, get the second one for double the cost. Using that promo code Bacon and Egg Show.
What a deal.
What a deal. Pay more than you should. Wow.
What a deal. You don't get that kind of stuff anywhere else but here on the Bacon and Egg Show.
Nope. That's what we're here for, the people, So help you with your holiday shopping needs.
Hosts of the people, that's right.
Well, man, it's been fun. I think I think we'll be able to get another show in before Christmas. I think we can do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We'll be able to get one in. We'll try to have Mike back on after the signing day, sort of break down everything there, and we'll try to get Mike back on to do that and talk whatever's coming. Maybe Tom Herman will have been fired by the next time we talk. Who knows? I mean, who knows?
It's a surprise a minute, this 2020. I mean, it's just keeps you on your toes, right?
No doubt.
Well, thanks everybody for watching, and yeah, man, let's do this again next week.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
ATX representing Fatal, baby.
Falling on 6th on a Saturday. Can the drip and swing now?